Welcome. Welcome to Peace this morning. It's good to see all of you here this Sunday morning. Pastor John is not with us, but he is with us in prayer. So welcome all. The coordinator for Children's, Youth, and Intergenerational Ministry, Jayna Detweiler, is going to be talking to us today about the servant learning mission trip with Mending Wings on the Yakima Reservation in Eastern Washington. And I think she has a few students who were with her on that experience who will also be talking. It's a blessing to worship together in person. Welcome to you who are worshiping online today. So glad you connected for worship today, wherever you are. We share communion today in the traditional manner with bread, wine, and grape juice, in addition to prepackaged elements. For folks worshiping remotely, you're invited to prepare bread, wine, or grape juice yourselves. Families with children, we have pew pals, activity bags, and sensory items for children as you enter the sanctuary. The cry room in the back is available for use, childcare in the nursery with Ms. Rebecca, children worship time in the basement classroom. I'm going to break and we are going to get our council report early. Antonio is going to come down and give us the council report, and then we will continue.
Good morning. So just wanted to relay that that giving remains strong month to month. So we thank you for all your financial support in the running the many different services of our church. And then Peace has applied for a grant in conjunction with St. Mark's. It is a program of a grant called Evergreen Options. It's through the Tacoma Power Company. And it costs $3 a month to basically join. What that allows is to have residents who are part of that program have a vote. And what makes that vote crucial is Peace is one of the finalists of 3 finalists chosen to have that grant apply to. And what that grant goes to is solar panels for, let's say, one of our DAD units. So if you wish to have a vote and be a part of that, cost per household is $3 per household. And then we should hear in the next couple of, I think, month or so, who of the 3 finalists gets that grant. But it's a great option for those who have the means to have that, join that program and have the money go towards us. So anyways, as you all know, Pastor John and Brendan are still away. Brendan on his sabbatical, and Pastor John is away with his family. So we continue to pray for, as a church, for their rest, renewal, and relaxation as they refuel for the winter at this point. So thank you all very much.
As we begin worship today, we acknowledge that Peace is located on the traditional homelands of the Puyallup people of the Coast Salish Nation, a living people. God has given us a vision to be a diverse community of faith in the hilltop where all are welcome, a community that is spirit-filled, compassionate, and healthy, reconciled, and just, and we are living into that vision. But we are on the journey. Now we will have Twyla give us some music.
Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name of the Lord Most High. Blessed be the name of the Lord. prayed for me. Somebody pray hard time to be like Jesus? Lord, I want to be like Jesus in my heart, in my heart. Lord, I want to be like Jesus in my heart. Lord, I want to be like Jesus in my heart.
Let's share God's peace. The peace of the Lord be with you always. And also with you. Let's take a moment to share God's peace. As we make our way back to our seats, we will have a moment of prayer. Dear God, thank you for all those who are here worshiping with you. For all those that are traveling, please keep them safe. For all those that are ill and unable to attend today, please be with them. Thank you for this opportunity for us to share once again your word, to share with one another, and have your peace. All of this we pray in your name. Amen.
I'm coming to you with Psalms 86, 11 through 17. Teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. Give me an undivided heart to reverence your name. I give thanks to you, O Lord, my God, with my whole heart, and I will glorify your name forever. For great is your steadfast love towards me. You have delivered my soul from the depths of the Siloam. O God, the insolent rise up against me. A band of rivers seek my life, and they do not set you before them. But you, O Lord, are a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. Turn to me and be gracious to me. Give your strength to your servant. Save the child of your serving maid. Show me a sign of your favor, so that those who hate me may see it and put it to shame. Because you, Lord, has helped me and comforted me. The word of the Lord.
Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen. God has spoken. Let the church say amen.
I'll be reading Matthew 13, 24 through 30, 36 through 43. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of God may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore again, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from? He answered, An enemy has done this. The slaves said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he replied, No, for in the gathering the weeds you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest, and at the harvest time I will tell the reapers, Collect the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into the barn. Then he left the crowds and went into the house, and his disciples approached him, saying, Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. He answered, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom and cause all of sin and all evildoers. They will be thrown them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Let anyone with ears listen. The word of the Lord.
Amen. 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 God has spoken. Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen. God has spoken. Let the church say amen.
Any children that would like to go to the multipurpose room may be released right now.
I encourage most of the children to go with Siri downstairs to the basement right now for children's time. Okay. Before I begin, I'd just like to say that 2 weeks ago today, the youth, Pastor John and myself, we went to Yakima Reservation on a slam trip, which is put together by the organization Mending Wings, which is a Native American owned and run organization on the reservation, which is so cool, and we are so lucky to have gotten to go on this experience. And one of the ways they would start one of their teachings to us is they would say, "Can I teach you?" Asking us to have open ears, open hearts, open minds. And so I just really liked that sentiment. So I ask, "Can I teach you?" With the help of some of our youth who went on the trip. Can we teach you what we learned? Thank you. So we read the parable of the weeds, and we spent a lot of time with weeds while we were there. A lot of weeds. But I just wanted to touch on what is a parable. In Godly Play, we keep parable stories in gold boxes because they're valuable stories. They hold more to just the words of the story. It's a metaphor for a deeper lesson. And we heard a lot of stories and a lot of lessons that were passed to us during our time there. So I'm happy to be able to share those with you with the help of the youth. The two important lessons from the parable of the weeds that I think that we can hold on to is that you can let two different things grow together. The weeds and the wheat, or a good and bad, just let them be. And the second thing is, at the time of harvest is when there will be judgment. It's not for us to judge. It's for God to judge in the end. So take caution with your judgment and focus on sowing good seed, or just being good, respectful, and kind to others into our world. For God alone holds the power to judge us in the end. And I wonder if this is what people held on to 200 years ago, or even now today, how things could be different. So we learned in our time in Yakima that there are 14 tribes that make up the Yakima Nation. And they have created 14 attributes, or things to follow. And one of the ones that we got to learn about this week was courage. I'm going to have Ellie help me say courage, how we were taught to say it. Can you? It's Yaich Unach, but you have better pronunciation, so go for it, Ellie. Unach, yeah. There's different ways of putting your tongue in your mouth, and it's not in our language, and so it's harder to learn for us. So I'm going to share how we saw courage from the staff of SLAM, from us leaders, and from our youth during our week there. When we got there, us leaders, we had a meeting with the director, Anna, and she was really open about the fact that it's taking a lot more courage for them to have groups come out onto their land and for them to open their arms for us to come out. Because they had a group at the beginning of the year just get up and leave because they didn't like what they were hearing. They didn't agree with what they were hearing. They didn't come with open ears and open minds. They wanted to come and kind of treat it more like a typical mission trip instead of a service learning trip. So they just got up and left, and that was really hurtful and disheartening for them as staff. So it's taking a lot more courage for them to keep doing what they do, which is really important work and really good work. After that meeting, we got settled, got ready for the week, and on Monday we jumped into our work at a house of two elders, two brothers, Sal and Vince, and we were cutting down a lot of weeds and grass, and I'm talking about grass that was taller than us and right up on the house, and we found a lot of things in that grass. The girls have stories to share about ticks, quail eggs, potential rattlesnakes, spiders, wasps' nests, heat. It was fun, but also hard. But we were told that the reasons for being there and doing the work were to prevent, if the grass, because it's so hot and dry and right up on the house, if a fire were to start, the house would be engulfed, and as elders living there, they probably wouldn't make it out in time if there was a fire. So it was really important to clear around the house for fire safety. And then the second reason was that there was a sweat house in the back, which we couldn't quite see when we first got there. There was lots of things. It was getting a lay of the land was a bit hard, but we'd made it. We cut our path all the way out to it that week. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. But we were encouraged that if an elder came out of the house to stop our work, put down our tools and just listen, because it took courage for the elders to come out and talk to us, for them to come talk to strangers that they don't know. It takes courage for them to ask for help. And so if they come out and are willing to share their stories, their experiences, their gratitude to us, just stop and listen. It's more important than the work. The work will get done. After Monday, the second day, we got to do a little bit more cultural learning. We went to a museum. There was a scavenger hunt that we were supposed to answer like 10 questions as we went through the museum. And what I noticed was a lot of our girls weren't actually finding all the answers. Some of them did, but some of them didn't find the answers, but they had notes on their papers, and they had taken in so much information. And to them, it wasn't about finding the answers. They were just there, amazed by the history. And it's history that's not in our textbooks in school. It's not what we're taught in school. And so it was a whole other side of history to learn. And then we got to make moccasins that night, which I don't know if any of us finished our moccasins yet, but that was one way to get to learn how the ancestors lived, and they would make moccasin slipper shoes out of deer hide. And so it was one of the ways that they would use all the pieces of a deer. On Wednesday, we went to Tlamama. Audrey, can you share about Tlamama to everyone?
So, La Mama was a giant woman, and she was kind of like a protector of the indigenous people. The giants were mean, and they like hurt people and stuff, and they were.
Hang on, pause. We're gonna get you a microphone.
Anyways,
Start over, yeah.
So La Mama was a giant woman, and she kind of was a protector of the indigenous people. Giants were kind of like big meanies. They were bad, and they hurt people. But La Mama kind of was nice to them and protected them, and was kind of like. And so, one time, or when she was heading back home to like her giant village, she laid down and died, and so her final resting place is like a
Sacred memorial.
a sacred place
Yeah.
for people to go pray and give her offerings. But the offerings are more of like thanking her than they are like giving her things. It's more of a way to thank her
Yeah.
for what she did for them.
And we were taught that you can turn it off. We were taught that we are praying to Creator or God, thanking for the protector that protected them. And that site's just off the side of a busy highway. It's just a grassy hill fenced off with rocks and torn fabrics and drinks and coins, all sorts of things. And as we started to drive away, we were going to go to a longhouse church, which is a traditional church. And they got a phone call that we couldn't go that day because there was a funeral happening. And so as we started to drive away, the procession of cars passed us, which I don't know if everyone noticed because we were in the vans but we pulled over and just let all these cars pass, and it was like 20 cars long at least. And you could just see all the family members and friends coming together to go celebrate and mourn that life at the Longhouse Church. So Anna, the director, decided that we would drive by her Longhouse Church that she grew up going to. But she hadn't been to in a while because her grandmother had passed away, and it was a bit too painful. So she took courage and was willing to let us go and drive around it. So if this is a longhouse, you go in and you drive, you circle it to let them know that you're there. And if there's a keeper who stays at the longhouse, they would come out and greet you. There isn't one at that one, so we weren't able to go in. But it looks like our sanctuary inside, and there's pews just lining the sides for elders. But typically you would sit on the ground, and there's dirt on the inside, and that's where they would hold feasts and celebrations. One of the ones was the celery feast, which is the first vegetable that shows up in February. So that's a big celebration when they get to harvest it. And learning about those traditions was really cool. From there, we went to Fort Simcoe, which is a state park now, so you could go. It's in an oak tree valley, and that land has played so many different roles over so many years. And originally, it was a tribal boarding school, which is a a lot of terrible things happened there. And these happened, there's boarding schools like this all over the US and in Canada. And we're learning more and more about the history of what happened at those places, even today. And so it was supposed to be a tangible piece of history for us to go see the buildings. Some of the buildings are different now. Those are the ones that the military used at a different time. But some of them are the original buildings. And one specific one is this white, small, square building that's used as like a punishment room. So if kids who came to the school, they were ripped away from their families, and if they spoke their language, or if they prayed in the way that they were taught to pray, if they danced in the way that they grew up dancing, they would be thrown into this room. And we were asked to describe how that room felt. So I was going to ask the youth to share how they felt, if you want to use the microphone again.
Was it a jail?
It's a punishment jail.
So when I went in the jail, I feel like it didn't really bother me, but if there were like 30 people, like how they packed it in there, I would have definitely felt like pressured or like claustrophobic in the room.
So yeah, kids would be packed in there for hours at a time. And it would be really tight, really hot, and it would condition them. It was a traumatic experience, so it would condition them to not do the things that would cause them to be put in that room. So they would lose their language, they would lose their prayers, they would lose their dances, and they're just now still trying to reconnect. And we'll talk more about that. They would say from those schools, one of the terms you might hear is that they would take the Indian out of the body, but leave the breath. So just let that sink in. They were taking away their self-identity and just leaving shells of who they were meant to be. Most of the youth from other churches and ours said that they couldn't stand to be in that room for like another minute. It was eerie. I felt like it was eerily quiet, too quiet. And just can't imagine kids being there and then not having comfort after that. In 1855, the U.S. government and the 14 tribes of Yakima signed a treaty. This reserved just over 10 million acres of land to be the reservation of Yakima. However, today, you might know or might not know, but it is not 10 million acres. It is only just over 1.3, 1.4 million acres. So what happened to those 9 million acres or so? Within 2 weeks of the treaty being signed, it was broken by the Native Americans. The U.S. government put blame on the Native Americans for, in the treaty, they had agreed to not be violent towards European settlers, in agreement that the military would be on the reservation to protect the Native Americans from any miners or other settler groups coming through. And yet that didn't happen. A group of miners came through and attacked a village of women and children and elders, and the men came back from hunting, found that, and they went out after the miners. And so because they broke the treaty, they lost about 9 million acres of land. They've gotten some back from the government over time. One of the parts that was important part for them was getting part of Pato back, which Pato is Mount Adams, as we know it. And the base of Mount Adams is where huckleberries grow. And I don't know if you've had huckleberry ice cream or jam, but it's really good, and we got to have that during our week there. So really glad that they were able to get part of that back. But there's still ongoing fights with the government and between tribes about access to salmon and land, and that is an ongoing justice issue. Wednesday night, we got to see dancers from Mending Wings and hear the drums and the prayers, and even got to be part of something called the potato dance. Jasmine was almost the winner of that. You got to stand with a partner with a potato between your foreheads and like have to move around. And if the potato fell, you were disqualified. So Jasmine was one of the last two standing groups. It was pretty cool to see. And after that, we had a traditional dinner of salmon and fry bread, which was delicious. There was huckleberry jam with the fry bread. What? Oh, and honey butter that Anna made for us. The youth wanted me to share that. Sorry. On Thursday, we finished up cleaning of the yard at Sal and Vince's. We made a lot of progress. And on one of the days when we'd cleared all the way to the back to the sweat lodge, Vince came out and started talking to the whole group. And he was sharing about the sweat lodge and how they would do it for a couple hours, like 5 times a week. So it was a big part of their lives. And it's something that had been overgrown and he hasn't been able to access or use for a long time. And he was hoping to reclaim that and use it again, and be able to share that tradition with younger generations. And then we also found out that another reason for clearing around the house was so that they could drive around to the back of the house because there was a ramp into the house. So it would make it easier for his brother Sal to get in to the house. And that was not one of the reasons that they had told us. So it was just that much more of a life-changing experience for them to have us out there doing that work and restoring their yard to what I imagine once was. And I wanted to ask Jasmine to come share her experience about how seeing the staff of Mending Wings and of the Slam trips, they had a lot of young people on staff. So I think they were like 22, 20, and then they had a couple high school interns that were 16 and 17. And they were the ones in charge of us in getting us to places and running our activities, which was really incredible to see such young people taking lead. And it made, I think, a big difference for our youth to see people closer to their age taking lead. And it was also that much more of an opportunity for them to grow relationships and learn from them. So Jasmine had something to share about how it impacted her to see the youth engaging with their culture and connecting with it. Do you want to come up?
Wait, what was the question?
About how the youth connecting with their culture impacted you.
Oh, okay. It was really nice to see like how like they were so deeply like involved with their culture, because like we were like learning like how it was like stripped away from them, and like how people like took their whole identity away and like punished them for just like being who they were. So like to see people like my age, like there was like Kamea and Aiden, for example. Like they like, you could ask them a question about anything and like they knew like everything about their culture, and like it was really nice to see like they like took pride in it and everything, because like we really learned like that wasn't what it was like even just like 100 or 50 years ago. It probably wasn't like that. So it was nice to see that they reclaimed who they were. And I don't know, I'll be thinking, because I'm Filipino, but you probably wouldn't know if I didn't tell you, but that's okay. But I'm like a quarter, but I grew up around mostly the Filipino part of my family, but I still don't like know a lot about the culture because my grandma came here, and then she came here from the Philippines, but she didn't really like teach us like about everything. So it would just be really like, I really got to learn how much of a privilege it is to have access to your culture, you know, because people don't really have that. Like seeing how they were like stripped away, it makes me think about how I could take like my access to my own culture for granted, like me not like having pride in it, or like, you know, claiming it in ways that I didn't know. Like me not trying to learn it and engage in it is kind of like taking it for granted. So it was really nice to see that people my age were like really deeply involved with their culture.
Yeah, so it wasn't even just teenagers. Some of the dancers, I think there was 2 little boys that were about 4, maybe even younger, who were dancing with the, I'm talking about 4 to like 16 or so were the age of the dancers. And so to see the pride and the courage it took for all of them to come up and show us their dancing, to spend time with us, was really amazing. So at the end of the week, I was left with this feeling of duality, 2 ways of life that to me in history had been very separate and don't belong together. You know, the tribal schools were a way of stripping away their culture and forcing Christianity religion upon them. The ways that we worship, the ways that we would pray, or European settlers coming over. And then their traditional culture and their spiritual prayers and their stories. And I just thought those were separate things that couldn't coexist. But one of the things that I got to hear from Dewey, who will be the coordinator of the prayers and drums come September, he told me the story of Creator and how 2-leggeds, us humans, were created, and we were given deer, and the deer give themselves to us to use, and we were given salmon for us to use, and the huckleberries, and all these things. And we could read it in the museum even too. And that story really parallels Genesis and creation. And when they pray, they're praying to Creator, which is God. Can it not be? And it's just that there are different ways of worship. There's different ways of translation. There's so many translations of the Bible because it all stems from Hebrew, and we know things don't translate perfectly. And so worship and faith can exist in so many different ways. So back to the parable of the weeds, I encourage you to slow down and to listen. We're called, those with ears, to listen. Be a lifelong learner. Learn from the good and the bad. Our ancestors did a lot of good and a lot of bad. So learn, move forward, rebuild bridges, and hold space for anger, but also for thankfulness. And we can learn to live together, not in spite, but with respect and kindness and love for one another, because we are all just humans. We are not to judge. We can grow and live together, because at the end, we are not the judgers. We do not do the judgment in the end. So I encourage all of us to stand tall in our courage and be willing to continue learning from our elders to our youth, because there's still so much to learn.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my
Now we will have the announcements and sharing the celebrations and concerns of the congregation. And we're going to start with announcements. I just want to remind you guys that on Thursday, there is